sort of adversity. In later years, he would be acknowledged as the greatest and most influential figure of his time, and the Washington of humanity. In Kevin Belmonte's compelling narrative of the life and times of Wilberforce, we are challenged not only to remember the achievements of this illustrious man, but also to recognize the call that his example still has upon us today. How often we're tempted to give up when the task is too hard. But the life and example of William Wilberforce take away our excuses, and the inspiring story in these pages gives courage and character a face we can recognize. Sadly, Wilberforce has until recent decades been a figure all but lost to history. Our forefathers knew this man. His name was on the lips of America's founding fathers. In America's struggles with this very issue, the question of slavery and the tragedies that would befall the nation in the Civil War, it was the words and wisdom of Wilberforce that would ultimately prevail. This generation needs to be reminded of the heroic saga of William Wilberforce, and we have Kevin Belmonte to thank for bringing it so vigorously to the fore. Today, wherever people struggle for freedom from bondage and the tyranny of compromise, they will have this model and this example of compassion and tireless endurance. It was, in fact, the determination, compassion, and wisdom exemplified by Wilberforce that prompted me to name our public policy institute in Washington, D.C., the Wilberforce Forum. But it was also this spirit that has motivated me for more than 25 years in my work at Prison Fellowship, bringing the love of God to those who are incarcerated in America's prisons, to their families, and to the victims of crime. This volume, William Wilberforce, A Hero for Humanity, is an important and worthy achievement, not only profound but thoroughly enjoyable to read. It is a book that will help to spread the story of a remarkable man far and wide. I am grateful to Kevin Belmonte for his own perseverance and industry in getting it all, getting it right, and getting it out for the benefit of readers everywhere. Wilberforce would be duly proud. Charles W. Colson, Chairman, Prison Fellowship Ministries. Preface. On September the 16th, 1833, a special public meeting was held in New York City. Those in attendance had assembled at the Colored Presbyterian Church at the behest of the officers of the Convention for the Improvement of the Free People of Color in the United States. It was a singular event, for they were met together to consider how they ought to mark the passing of the British anti-slavery reformer William Wilberforce, who for nearly 50 years had been the friend of Africa. For 20 years Wilberforce had led the fight to abolish the British slave trade, a victory achieved in 1807. 26 years later, and just days before his death in late July 1833, Wilberforce had learned that slavery itself would be abolished throughout Britain's colonies. News of this great human rights victory had just reached America's shores, as had the news of Wilberforce's passing. And so, sons and daughters of Africa met in New York to consider how they ought to pay tribute to Wilberforce's memory. During that September meeting, several resolutions were unanimously adopted. A committee was also appointed to draft resolutions expressive of the sentiments of regret felt by the people of color for the death of the Honorable William Wilberforce. It was their considered opinion that the most extensive manifestations of feeling be recommended to the people of color throughout the United States. The other resolutions adopted including a request that colored freemen throughout the United States be requested to wear a badge of mourning for 30 days. Pastors of the African American churches in New York City were asked to deliver discourses in the several churches as soon as practicable, descriptive of the life and virtues of the late William Wilberforce. Lastly, a committee of 5 was appointed to select a suitable person to deliver an eulogy on the life and character of the distinguished philanthropist whose death we so much lament. Soon afterward, this committee reported that they had selected Mr. Benjamin F. Hughes, principal of the Free School. Hughes delivered his eulogium for William Wilberforce on October the 22nd, 1833. Marked by passages of great eloquence, the address was eventually published and widely distributed. It is now considered a classic work of African American literature. Perhaps no portion of Hughes's oration was more powerful than the one in which Hughes compared Wilberforce and Napoleon.